Hello there, this is H.J. Cronin, author of Crime, Horror and Fantasy, and this is my YouTube channel, The Facts of Fantasy. I am once again back with my group of friends, the Geeks of Power, to discuss Amazon's $1 billion show, The Rings of Power. We are on episode 6. I hope you've listened to and enjoyed the previous episodes. Without wasting any time, let's get straight into it, so sit back, listen and enjoy. I'm here with the Geeks of Power, our little fantasy panel to talk about The Rings of Power, episode 6. We have Rich.
Hello.
Jack. Hello.
And Trevor.
Hello.
So, episode 5 was, I think collectively we sort of agreed it was awful, aside from Rich. Rich was on the fence-ish. But, yeah, episode 5 sort of lost us all. And I don't think anyone was sort of excited for episode 6 because, I don't know, it's just been built up so badly. But episode 6 came on and I was actually quite pleasantly surprised by it. Not that I enjoyed it. I thought it was better than what we've had before. No half-ups for a start, which is fantastic. That gets an extra point. So, yeah, we're going to see how this battle sort of pans out and where the characters progress and what happens with the Númenóreans. And it opens up with Adar is talking to his orcs about reclaiming their homeland. Joseph, is it Morley? Is that his surname?
I think it's Joseph Maul. I think it is.
Maul. Okay. I think he plays the character absolutely fantastic. I find him so compelling. I really like him. I like listening to him. Every time he comes on screen, he's got a presence. I think he's absolutely fantastic. His speech to the orcs it added more sympathy and it made his plight really, really compelling. Like, he wants to find the orcs a homeland, and regardless of whether orcs are pure evil or what they're meant to be, they do deserve a homeland. Why do they not deserve a homeland? That's what I was thinking.
I agree.
I think I've gone completely onto the dark side here and rooting for the bad guys. Because the orcs deserve a home. You know, they've all got names, as you were saying. They're not just slaves. They're more than that. And throughout the series, like, his emotions and his behaviour towards the orcs have sort of backed this up. It's like he shed a tear when one passed away. And he stood there and had a conversation with his lieutenant. I can't remember the orc's name, but they were having a conversation. And it really backs him up. Like, backs his whole story up to this episode. And in this particular,
it's almost like he's more likable than Galadriel.
Oh, much more likable.
Yeah. I am Team Orc now.
Yeah.
I'd love to see this be a show of how they develop Mordor.
Yeah,
before those horrible elves come along and humans and oppress the Orc masses.
You know what, Trevor? That's exactly why I like this episode, because now I'm seeing it as an origin story for Mordor, and I'm actually, you know what? That's actually quite a positive for me, because it's made me actually enjoy this episode so much so that I'm giving it about a 5 or 6 out of 10.
Whoa, steady there.
Well, I've been 2s and 3s, so the half-ups added an extra point, mind, that they weren't in it. We heard about his backstory as well, which I quite liked. Obviously, he's not a canon character as far as I'm aware, is he, Jack?
No.
I think his backstory is pretty cool. That he was one of the first orcs, basically, or Uruks. I kept thinking about Urukai, but I tried to switch that off because I love.
Well, Uruk is orc in Black.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where Urukai comes from. And then Ologhai is trolls that walk in daylight. Urukai are just orcs that walk in daylight. That's what it basically means.
Because am I correct in saying that, like, Urukai as we know them in Lord of the Rings aren't actually in the book, are they?
No, they are.
Yeah, they are.
Like the man orcs.
Yeah, that's
okay. Urukai are man orcs. They're orcs that can. So these orcs can't walk in daylight.
Yeah.
And orcs can't walk in daylight, and neither can goblins.
Oh, okay.
But Urukai can, and so can Ologhai. Ologhai are trolls that can walk in daylight that don't turn to stone.
Oh, brilliant. I absolutely love the Urukai. They're my favourite thing about Lord of the Rings.
Well, that was, I think it's Saruman who makes the Urukai.
Sauron does as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
he
I
makes-
thought it was the way it's
he
put in
makes-
the movies. It's that it's Saruman has done something.
You
Yeah,
do
Sauron
actually,
makes his own.
you do actually see in Return of the King Uruk-hai that are from Mordor. They're the
Yeah.
ones that fight over the Frodo's mithril shirt in Cirith Ungol.
That
Oh,
shiny
right, yes,
shirt.
I
That's
remember
mine.
that.
So Shagrat and Ugluk are the
Yeah,
two that
fantastic.
fight. Shagrat is a Morannon orc. Ugluk is a Uruk-hai.
Yeah, they have that little civil war.
Yeah.
Um,
Then
but anyway,
named,
yeah.
their language is spoken different.
So I love the sort of speech he gave the orcs, and they start chanting Nampat, which I learnt is actually dark speech for death. I felt that as like a little nod towards Return of the King when the Rohirrim are charging. That's how I interpreted it anyway, and I quite like that. Isildur had his only interesting piece of dialogue in this entire series so far. I liked it when he said that Numenor isn't the real Numenor. I thought that's fantastic. When
That's
he
on
talked
the
to,
nose.
yeah, when he talked to Galadriel, breaking the fourth wall. But that's the most compelling of him I've seen. I feel the character. I don't know if it's the actor that I'm just not buying into, or if it's his awful writing. I find him so dry and very boring and a bit dull. I did like his chat with Galadriel though. I did quite like that. I think that's the only thing I've liked with Galadriel in it. Elendil is still my favourite Numenorian. Lloyd Owens absolutely owns that role. I like the little hints of Aragorn you get, like when he was speaking to the horse. I don't know what that's called, what that language is called, Jack or Trevor.
He's speaking Quenya.
Yeah, I thought that's fantastic because it reminded me of Aragorn in
Two Towers with Brago.
Two Towers. Yeah, I thought that's fantastic. And his calm sort of tone and air about him is very similar to Aragorn. I really like him. Aside from that, I absolutely hated everything to do with the Numenorians in this episode. Time and distance means nothing in this show. Like, how did they know where the Southlanders were?
They did mention that there was a bit in the previous episode, I think, where they said they will probably make for this tower. Now, how they would know that, I don't know, but that is why they went there, I think.
Yeah, but then they were in the village. They were in the village, weren't they, when they fought?
Yeah, exactly.
The village is in the valley. It's not far from the tower.
Yeah.
Still, I would have preferred to see Raven or however they send messages, or even a eagle turn up and tell them. I thought they travelled across that sea very quickly with the Noah's Ark boat that Jack posted a picture of earlier, with all these magic horses coming out of nowhere. But anyway, I haven't got much to say on the Numenorians. Bronwyn is the worst character in this for me, aside from Galadriel. I don't find her likable at all. Gets praised at the end for Arondir's hard work. So Arondir basically defended the entire place on his own, and I think it was Galadriel at the end praised Bronwyn on her defense. I find her boring, and I didn't think she deserved the role of leader at all. Nothing we've seen has sort of built up to that or made it realistic, to be honest. The actress Mazarin Boniardi, I think she's absolutely gorgeous, but this role is written really badly for her. I was gutted she survived the orc arrows, to be fair. I was hoping they'd be brave and kill her off. Which gets onto the brutality. I thought the brutality was fantastic in this. Like all the deaths of the humans, like where the arrows are just going into them at the end and they're falling, and the woman like gets her throat cut, and Arondir and the orc having that grisly scene with the blood. I thought that was fantastic. The battle scene was good. I still don't like the tactics used, but I'm trying not to think about that. I thought it was terrible. Arondir, Adar going into the tower and just leading his army in there to slaughter, and then the tower falling on them because one string got broke. I try not to think about it, but it was convenient for the story. Arondir is a badass. I really liked his fighting. I really liked him in this, to be honest. And at the end, when Adar sort of started killing prisoners, I thought that was brilliant as well. I love the ending. The ending made me like the episode. I hate thinking about the build up to it because the build up's been so shit. The explosion and the flood Mount Doom exploding and the water. Like the whole reason they broke the river, the dam, was so the water can cause the eruption and basically the beginning of Mordor. I really enjoyed that and felt like there's a few things in previous episodes that sort of paid off here. I thought they'd done a really good job with that, and it looked amazing. I thought the beginning of Mordor was good, and it made the episode worthwhile. So yeah, I'm probably about a 5 out of 10, maybe. That's a point for Harfoots and 4 points for Adar and Arondir mixed together. So, yeah, that's my sort of analysis of it. Rich, what did you think of episode 6?
Well, I'm going to have some, as per usual, I have different views to everyone here, probably. The Adar speech I felt could have been better. That didn't move me as much as I hoped it would. I don't know whether it's the way it was filmed or something, because I like the actor, like the character, but it didn't quite have the oomph for me. I don't know if it was the way it was filmed. It just didn't quite. My notice I put down disappointing, genuinely, because I was expecting some cool speech and it didn't have quite the power that I was hoping for. However, the battle in the tower, with the tower collapse, I liked the blend of practical effects and CGI. I didn't think any of the boulders that fell looked like they were polystyrene or anything like that. It all looked real, as real as it can be. So I liked that. So that was good. The Sauron question is avoided again. Somebody else, Waldreg sort of asked him about where is Sauron, and he just doesn't answer. So they're building that up. Arondir's speech was quite good. I like that. That was far better filmed and a bit more sort of poignant. There's a scene with Bronwyn and her son, which most of the scenes with Bronwyn and her son have been a bit, well, not great. But I thought that was quite moving. I quite liked that scene where she's saying, "No, please don't fight. Just go and hide, please." And finally, we got to see some romance. Arondir and Bronwyn finally kiss. Yay, fantastic. They've built it up enough times. Arondir, again, as we've talked about many times, Ismail Cruz Cordoba is fantastic. I hope whatever happens, whether the series is recommissioned and they do the 5 series or it gets cancelled, whatever happens, I hope he gets some great roles after this, because he's doing a great job of his performance, and he's great screen presence is what I've written down here. Again, the orc makeup and costumes, excellent. Really liking that. It all looks lived in and rotted and kind of horrible and kind of great. Really liking that. The battle that they have at the village, where death by scythe, hand scythe, which is kind of pretty grim, as you said, it's pretty brutal. And they do their kettling of the people, they kind of the invading army, or the fake orc army, as we know. But that was quite well sort of done. The bit in the battle I didn't like was the one-on-one battle with Arondir and the orc. I don't know, it just didn't. The choreography, the fight choreography, just didn't look right. It looked like a run-through before they did the real thing. Fortunately, they pulled it back when he's literally about to stab him in the eye with that blade, and there's the orc blood dripping into his mouth. And I'm wondering, are they going to do some weird, completely non-canon thing that orc blood will corrupt Arondir? That would be an interesting path to take, but they probably won't. But that would be interesting to do that. Then, of course, there's the horrible counter-attack, and the poor villagers, and Bronwyn gets shot and has to have a wound cauterized, and yeah. Then there's Numenor people who I thought, are they going to arrive on time? No, they don't. But then we get a great scene with sort of Adar, who absolutely just steals every scene from this point. Although he doesn't at the beginning, but when he comes in, and Theo saves his mother by saying where this special magical hilt is, and that was good. And eventually, the cavalry do arrive, and there's this kind of battle. There was a crappy thing where Galadriel dodges an arrow, and I just thought that was just terrible. I thought it was crap. There was no need for that. They could have just had her just like dodging stuff. But
human Mongolian children can perform that exact trick from horseback.
I'm sure they could, but the way it was filmed, it looked crap.
It's real. It's a real effect.
I know. It could have done it a different way. It just didn't look very good, which is disappointing. But what I did like was Queen Muriel's helmet. Fantastic. This big gold sort of sun thing, so I quite like that. And Halbrand saves Elendil. But I obviously spotted that Adar had done a bluff with saying, getting Waldreg to run off with the hilt. I like that. Other thing, can you actually trip a horse with a rope? That's the question I've got there. I'm not sure whether a horse would just jump over a rope rather than be tripped by it, but okay.
You can if they don't see it.
Yeah, I suppose. Then we get onto the fake law, the Moriondor, which I immediately Googled and is a completely made up word. But I mean, it sounds kind of cool, so all right. And Sauron wanted to heal Middle Earth. Yeah, of course he did. But I like that little interaction with Galadriel and Adar.
Actually, Rich, there is a little bit about that.
Is there? Oh, right. Go on.
After the fall of Morgoth and Melkor, after Melkor is imprisoned, there actually is like a brief time where Sauron sort of has like an epiphany and sort of tries to be good again.
All right. Okay. So that is actual law. Okay.
Yeah, it's not long lived, and the Valar eventually tried to summon him for judgment in Valinor, and he basically says no, and then goes back to. He goes back
that montage though. They had the montage of like the search for dark knowledge and stuff. I quite like. I think they should have made more of that. I like that. I would like to see a bit more of that. And Adar claiming he killed Sauron, which I think, okay, yeah, but he's the Uruk are liars, so he's just spinning a lie there. Perhaps, who knows? Or is Adar Sauron?
Well, that would explain why Halbrand, if Halbrand is Sauron, which I don't think he is, but it would explain why Halbrand wanted to kill him when he says, "Do you remember me?" and then held the spear to his throat.
Okay, interesting. Well, yeah, we'll see where that goes. And the fact that they suddenly went, "Oh, are you the king of the Southlands?" And he went, "Yeah, it's me." I thought, oh, that could have been handled better. I think they could have, done something better with that. It wasn't. It could have been better. I saw what they were trying to do, but it didn't quite work. But also, you've got Valdreg, Secret Sword Volcano achievement unlocked, which I liked. I thought that was fantastic.
Don't.
Yeah,
No, but seriously though, I thought that was a great scene with all the sort of stuff, and that's why they're digging the tunnels. That's why they're doing the thing, and this is where Mount Doom gets reactivated. And my biggest criticism of that would be that should have been earlier in the series.
It should have been in the first age.
Well, yes, I mean, yeah, but we're putting law to one side in terms of pacing. That should have been in episode 3, not episode 6.
Yep.
Yeah, or right at the end as like a finale if it's been built up properly.
Because I
totally conveniently missed out the stupid key thing in my analysis, by the way. Carry on, Rich.
Well, no, what I would have liked to have seen is, can you imagine a different way of pacing it, where Galadriel's about to go to leave Middle Earth and everything else, and then Mordor gets reactivated, and shit, I have to go back, and that would have been, she's suddenly aware that evil has awoken, and that's what makes her dive off the boat.
Yeah,
that would have been a cool thing to do,
an actual reason. That would be an actual reason to bring the Númenóreans.
And she's like, "Why are you going?" No, I have to go. Something's happening. I'm getting a vibe that Middle Earth is but that might have been an interesting way. That would have been a if I was writing it, but that would have been better. But again, it was a mixed bag of stuff. I'm still interested to see how on earth, because obviously at the end of the episode there's what I would call a pyroclastic flow of kind of gases and stuff, which in any other situation would just kill everyone instantly. Famously in the movie, I think it's is it Dante's Peak or Volcano, where there's a guy sort of standing watching what he thinks is just gas, and it basically just turns into stone.
Dante's Peak.
Is it Dante's Peak where that happens? Yeah. It's the one with Pierce Brosnan, whichever one that is.
Yeah.
And that certainly happens. And I thought, oh no, they're all going to die. Well, no, they're not, because they're protected by plot armor. Of course they're not. But well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, that happens in loads of series. But I want to see where they're going to go with it. So yes, I just feel that they've saved up that big reveal of where we're bringing we're going to make Mordor great again. That should have been much earlier in the series to kind of amp up the kind of drama and fighting and stuff. So yeah, again, no Harfoots. I know that you're not a lover of the Harfoots. I just want to see more of them in them properly developed, because we just seen little tidbits and little bits and bobs. I just want to see more about what they're doing and how on earth that's going to connect to the rest of the plot.
I think they're pretty well developed, Rich. They're mindless, psychotic psychopaths that are literally just travelling around Rovanian or Eriador, I can't even remember where, abandoning people left, right, and centre, and plotting to abandon more people.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man. But
no travelling or nomadic people can survive with that as a way to maintain and preserve your culture.
What I would like to see is their culture developed. If they explained why they did that, that would be that would be at least interesting and add some depth. Well, we used to always rescue people, but now we can't because of a thing that happened. That would be complete non-law based, but at least they could have put a thing in. That now the only way to survive is to do this. If they at least put that in, that would be interesting to see that developed a bit more. And but again, that's a separate thing. Maybe we'll get. But I just want to see it expanded and just add a bit more depth to the characters rather than just they just abandon people because screw those people, they stopped. So although you did see in the previous episode like an abandoned cart and you think, is that previous people who just well you died in the swamps, so stuff you guys. So that could be a thing, but that's my general summary of it. I actually, although there were some great bits in it, there was bits that kind of let it down a bit. So I will say again, I'm still at a low 6. Sorry, a 6-7 sort of cusp still. It was good, but there was one or two things in it which is that could have been handled so much better. If it handled the King of the Southlands thing better, if it handled the Arondir fight a bit better, and one or two other things, and the arrow flip. Yes, I know what you're saying, Jack. That was the thing that people did, but it didn't look good. It could have been filmed better. The choreography didn't seem to sit right with me. So yeah, that's my summary there.
I had a funny little image of the Harfoots waddling along like the nomadic tribe they are, and suddenly Mount Doom explodes and the flow just wipes them all out. As they're just wandering along, not knowing what's going on in the world.
Or even better, you see, and that's why we leave people behind because that could happen anytime.
Yeah. Right. Positive as always, Rich. I like it. Jack or Trevor, who's going to volunteer to go next?
Should I go?
No, mate.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know what? The action, there was action, which I'd say is a positive. However, it can't hide the fact that our heroes are stupid. I mean, they're stupid. They're dumb. And our bad guys are actually more interesting and far superior intellectually to the heroes. I thought, I mean, it's like the whole thing with the sword being a key to unlock this mechanism. That's great. But they destroyed the tower at the start of the episode. And it's just like, so he just got in there and there was no damage to the foundations or anything, or didn't have to climb through some rubble to get to the keystone or whatever. And it's just like, what the hell? It just made, it's just convenience. It's just that I couldn't throw any sort of obstacle in his way. I mean, I can forgive Galadriel for not being duped by the fake item in the wrapping. But Arondir, earlier in the episode, had tried to destroy it. He knew the shape of the hilt. And you're telling me he didn't know that it wasn't the hilt in there?
And why wouldn't you check it immediately?
Well, yeah,
immediately.
Galadriel and Arondir, they chased after Adar to stop him from taking this item wherever, and they didn't check it. Neither of them. Galadriel passes it on to Arondir. Arondir has it for about 5 seconds and gives it to the boy. It's like, what? To be honest, it was quite predictable.
Trev, don't ask questions. It's visually stunning.
Yeah, I know. So I thought this episode, Galadriel was the most relatable at the end of the episode because I was with her with being done. It's just that sort of, there's fucking the volcanoes, Mount Doom's exploding. We're all gonna die. I might as well just face it and walk into the cloud of ash, and be done with it. And I thought, sort of in that moment, Galadriel was the most relatable because it's just like, yeah, I feel you. I say the action. I thought tactics and that it was quite cleverly done. I mean, the the bad guys. I'd said to Jay, just like, why are the orcs carrying torches? And they're just like, okay, so they got humans there, and they got this fake human. And you say once the bad guy humans are dead, it's just like, well, okay, the orcs just attack the village from the dark. There's no torches anymore. And it's just like, oh, that's clever. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, that was a keen bit of detail, that, because it took me a little while to figure that out too.
Yeah, I was happy to have watched it the second time because it made a little bit more sense. Because I was just like, I was sure Galadriel had hold of the hill, but I'd say brilliant sort of interplay between Adar and Galadriel on Adar's part, because he just run rings around Galadriel, and I just thought Galadriel's there swearing an oath to sort of kill all his children, the genocidal psychopath, and leave him to last. And then he looks at her funny, he says something, and she sort of goes to cut his throat. I mean, obviously she draws blood. And it's just like, oh no.
Forgot to mention about all that genocidal Galadriel.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought it up, Trevor.
Yeah, so it's just sort of, let's say, come the end of the episode when, let's say, again, it was all very clever, the strategies that have been employed by the orcs building these tunnels, etc., etc. Really like that. It's quite clever. It's thoughtful, and it makes the orcs and Adar far more likable than any of the other characters in the show. And like I say, I sympathise with Galadriel just going, yeah, okay, let that cloud of ash just evaporate me, please. I feel a bit better about it than the previous episode. It's just bad writing, really bad writing, and it just stays at 3 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, absolutely awful writing. Galadriel, honestly, how can you have a good guy say to this orc, this Uruk, who's humanized orcs a little bit to like make you sympathize? How can you have the protagonist say, I'm gonna let you live so you can watch whilst your people die?
It's just like, what?
Her character arc is going to be the whole 5 seasons, isn't it?
Honestly,
it's not one season, is it? We're going to have to put up with this for like
yeah.
3, 4, maybe even 5 whole seasons.
Right, Jack,
Till
that's
she
a
meets
perfect time to
Celeborn.
go on to you, mate, because I feel like you've been biting your tongue.
No, I don't.
What
I
do
don't
you think
even
of
know.
episode 6, mate?
I don't even know, if I'm going to be totally honest. None of it at all. Any of it is lore accurate from any position. Melkor created Mordor, although I'm not sure when Orodruin caught fire, but this is late Second Age, very late Second Age. So it should have been a smoking ruin for 1500 years. It's better than last episode, but then there's less dialogue, so there's less chance for the writers to fuck it up. I'm seeing people be like, Amazon has its Helm's Deep. What?
Oh my god.
That is not Helm's Deep. No.
I quite like the series, and I would never say that.
No,
It
but
was
you're
more
seeing
like
it
Seven
online.
Samurai. It was more like Seven Samurai.
They really tried it. They tried it with the cinematic effects. They tried
I
it with
don't.
Yeah, go on, Jack.
Slow-mo, cavalry charge, all that gubbins, great. But I don't feel anything for these people at all. There is only one character that I cared about in that entire sequence. No, 2, sorry. Arondir, because you've had some time with him and you can see he's a gentle, kind soul, really, and actually doesn't really enjoy this. Doesn't give me the impression that he wants to be fighting and prefer to be in love and far away. And he's got that sort of gaiety and joy that you can sort of, well, not so much joy, but like sorrow actually would be a better way of, weirdly, I know that's a massive transfix there, but he's got very elven characteristics. So you can like there's a lot of kindness in his eyes. I don't feel anything for any of these villagers, these gullible, naive, stupid villagers who just proclaim someone their king because he told them he was their king. There's no law. There's no law keepers. There's no old people that are like, does he bear the sacred birthmark or any of those things that you would expect them to know. All he has is a sigil on a pouch that Galadriel has seen maybe twice and found in a book in Numenor. It's so hollow. That whole thing is so unsubstantiated.
It's so rushed, isn't it?
I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Rich, you're absolutely right. It should have been in the 3rd episode, and again, poor writing. Adar has answered the age-old question: do orcs have female orcs? Are there female orcs? Yeah, there are, because he said brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
There must be female orcs. So that's answered a question people have debated for literally decades. Thanks, Amazon. It's also showing the philosophical debate that Tolkien did actually struggle with, which was are orcs sort of, should they have their own understanding and story? Because you've never seen that before. It's not really mentioned in the books, and he was intending to write about orcs in a bit more in depth and more detail, but he never got round to it. So I kind of appreciate that they're trying to do that, because I definitely care more about these orcs than I do about the villagers and really the Men of Numenor. Men of Numenor should not be worrying about these orcs at all. They should be smashing through these. Well, they have smashed through them, but like, it shouldn't even be a contest in any way, shape, or form. There should be no dead Numenorians after fighting this rabble of orcs, like at all. There's no reason at all for that to happen. Isildur kind of annoys me, but kind of doesn't as well, because I think you're going to see him. I think what they should have done is killed one of his friends. Ontimo, the one that had to be saved by the other one who's a better fighter. I don't know what his name is. What's his name?
Random Numenorian chum.
Brandon.
Yeah.
He's the new lieutenant, isn't he? Because he
Numenorian number 2.
yeah.
Not
So-
a red skirt.
I feel one of them should have died, and
Yeah.
maybe Isildur starts realizing the horrors of war. The battle scenes were good, but the choreography, you're right, there was some bits there. I mean, there's that bit where Arondir tries to like backhand the big giant orc, and I'm like, oh, okay. I also don't understand why Miriel's here. Like, Numenor is factionally divided. Tharazun is clearly in her ear all the time and possibly gaining too much popularity with the masses. She probably should not have left Numenor. I definitely didn't in lore. So I'm not sure why Elendil and Miriel need to be here. Bronwyn, yeah, it's a shame she got shot by an arrow, I guess. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this anymore. I just kind of feel deflated. I don't really care now. That's kind of like, I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, they're doing that. Oh, that's nice. Oh, look, Galadriel's done a kickflip. Great. Yeah, nobody checked the bundle to see if there was this magical sword that turns out to be a key. And of course, it's a key. It's a fucking magical sword.
Move a rock.
Yeah, they move a rock, and then nobody apparently all the main characters will survive somehow. I mean, what I would like to see in the next episode would be Arondir and Galadriel both really, really devastated for the Southlands in a way that I don't trust Amazon's writers to be able to correlate it. But there will be no light in this land now. There'll be no starlight. There'll be no sunlight. There'll be no moonlight. Like, that light is a big deal that Tolkien really, really emphasizes and captures elven understanding of light beautifully. I mean, it's not even really played. They try to play on it a little bit in Lord of the Rings. Oh God, I'm about to say something positive about Toriel. Okay, so you know how like in The Hobbit, in The Hobbit, there's like this bit where Poldark is talking to Toriel when they're in prison.
Yeah.
Well, she's sort of like, he doesn't understand starlight, and she sort of is like, oh, it's his memory. And I'm sort of like, that bit is actually really, really well written, because that is how elves treat light. So there's now no longer going to be any light in the Southlands. It's going to be the sky will be blotted out. The sun will no longer fall there. Nothing will grow. It will all be poisonous and horrible. So it'd be nice if Galadriel and Arondir actually show emotion at that, because I'd imagine for elves that's a massive deal. That's a big deal. Being able to walk under starlight, because the elves used to walk under starlight before the trees and everything. So, so that might be nice. Halbrand. Did you notice how really 1 minute it was like Halbrand tried to kill Adar, then Galadriel goes psycho and wants to kill Adar? after saying she wasn't going to kill Adar, she was just going to kill all the orcs and make
Yeah,
Adar what.
she wanted him alive.
And then she didn't, and then she did, and then he doesn't, and then he did, and
Then they fell in love over bloodlust, basically.
Yeah, if they go further with that, like this is a 4 out of 10. Like this episode's a 4 out of 10, and I meant it last week when I said I'm really going to struggle to give this anything above a 3 out of 10 now. And I am disappointed that the response from a lot of people has been something finally happened, and I'm kind of like,
blinded by the action.
Yeah, it took a battle for people to say something finally happened.
I thought the action was awful in this one. I really hated the fighting in this one.
Yeah, but this isn't World of Warcraft. Okay, Middle Earth and Tolkien's writings are not just about war and battle. It really isn't. It's so much deeper in a lot of the meaning and like the struggle, and about how even magic in Tolkien's writings is quite subtle. You know, only super duper duper beings can actually really use the big magic. Were a bit like how when Galadriel rips down Dol Guldur in The Hobbit, but also doesn't actually occur in the lore. So yeah, I'm disappointed that people are like, yeah, wow, something finally happened. Did it really actually happen? I mean, it happened, but like, if that's what constitutes something happening, I can't imagine people are going to be too interested in the next 2 episodes.
For me, that statement of something happening, I hated the action in this. I hated the fighting in the battle scenes because it just felt like a cheap Helm's Deep wannabe trial, which just didn't work. But I liked sort of the birth of Mordor.
Yeah, fine. You know, for me, I thought it was fairly inevitable that was what they were going to do. I didn't think they were going to break a dam. I thought that they were tunneling to Mount Doom to sort of, or to Orodruin, just to channel lava out of it into the land. So it was kind of a. I mean, it looked very good. It looked very interesting, but
the villagers got absolutely pulverized by meteors.
Yeah, so yeah, Halbrand's the king of nothing. Quite literally now, the king of nothing. It's not even like when they tell Thorin Oakenshield, you're not a king. You don't have a mountain. Like he doesn't even have land that he can farm. There's nothing left.
And he had 40 people.
Yeah. He had 40 naive, gullible people.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. I'm happy people like it. I'm sure it was very interesting for a lot of people, but for me, the build up to this was so anticlimactic because you spend 2 hours in Return of the King, and when the Rohirrim turn up to save Minas Tirith and the Men of Gondor, you're like, wow, yeah, great, amazing. This, like I said, I just didn't care. I was like, oh, the Numenorians have come, yay! It wasn't so completely inevitable. Like it was so inevitable that the Rohirrim were going to turn up and save the Men of Gondor at the Battle of Pelennor Fields, but it was still a surprise when they turn up. You know that bit when the Witch King is fighting Gandalf the White?
Yeah.
And then suddenly you hear the horn call. And every time, even now when I watch it, after the millionth time, I'm still like, oh my god, the Horn of Rohan, of course they're coming. Like you completely forget. In this, you're like, any minute now, Numenor is going to somehow manage to have travelled weeks on horseback because there's no timeline to any of this, and they'll come and save the day. And
I think if I was going to film it, a better would have been that they look like they've lost. We haven't seen them riding or anything like that. No telegraphing of them coming. Then suddenly a wave of arrows suddenly hit all the orcs. Who the fuck's that? And oh, the Numenorians are here. That would have been a great reveal that they're suddenly on the hillside and then they come down. But instead they said, oh yeah, they're on their way. Oh, okay, so we're just waiting until they get here, which I think the pacing of that was off for me.
I think I would have liked, because for me, like what Jack was saying about being anticlimactic, that was bittersweet for me because I really love the ending of this, and this is by far my favourite episode because of that ending. But the build up to it has been so shit. I feel like the Numenorians, I would have had them be late and not even turn up, and come in the next episode and just see Mordor and see Galadriel's face, and rather than them make an appearance in this episode, like they should have turned up too late, and then that would have given it a bit more excitement and a bit more like sorrow. But it was like there was 50 Numenorians or something on horseback, meant to be 500.
There's no quest. Trev hit on this ages ago, and I've thought about this deeply. There's no quest. There's no, even if there's no traveling, no one's actually, apart from the bad guys who clearly have an agenda, and you can see them trying to affect it. I guess Galadriel has a quest, but all she was going on was that Halbrand had said his family were killed by orcs. It could have been 3 orcs that killed his family. Could have just been 3 orcs that have been missed by the elves over thousands of years, and she's just marshalled an entire army to go kill 3. She had no idea what was going on in the Southlands. Nobody did. Numenorians actually don't treat lesser men very well at all, especially by the time of Ar-Pharazôn. They've already got colonies in Umbar and what becomes Gondor and all of that coastline, and they have colonies of Numenorians, and they enslave and torture lesser men because they consider them dirt beneath their boots. They make them work in the mines. Yeah, they are not kind at all.
I didn't know that.
It's only the faithful.
And they take tribute from them, don't they? I mean, Al-Pharazôn has said that. I mean, that his agenda, which we got, which was good, I suppose, is like, well, that's what Numenor does.
There's also some scholarly discussion about whether or not Numenorians even used cavalry, because we're not the only culture that we've seen so far with horses is Numenor, but we're pretty sure that I can't remember this bit, and I have to look through my books when I finally get a chance. But I'm pretty sure that the Numenorians were just foot soldiers, but they used longbows made of steel. They were that strong that their longbows were made of steel. They are technologically way more advanced than any race has ever been in Middle-earth.
Well, Elendil is meant to be super tall, isn't he?
Yeah, Elendil the Tall. Yeah, but Elendil should already have Narsil, but we've only seen Narsil as a cookie. He hasn't actually got Narsil yet, but he should already have Narsil. He is one of the leaders of the 5 houses, so he is like a third or fourth cousin of Miriel. They have tried, I think Yoyston from Men of the West pointed this out. They have actually tried to make the Numenorians look taller than men in this. Oh, R.I.P. to the cow farmer, by the way. He turned out to be a nifty little fighter, didn't he? The guy whose cow was like reeking out black milk.
Yeah.
He got shot a couple of times. He was pretty hardcore. I felt for him. And that's how I feel about this so far. I'm not looking forward to the next episode at all, because Gil-galad asked Elrond to break an oath.
Yeah, and then they carried that rock all the way back to Khazad-dûm.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably going to see the aftermath of Mount Doom exploding, and then they're going to focus on the Harfoots and Elrond.
The weird sisters, the 3 Norns.
So we've only got 2 episodes left, haven't we?
Yeah.
Trevor, where do you think that's going to go?
Do you know what? I don't. I'm not sure, and I'm not that fast. I think the next episode will be a bit of it will deflate. They'll try and. We've had a big attention draw to the Southlands, so I think they'll conclude something there, and then hyper focus on other stories, and probably just stall for time for the finale episode.
Yeah,
which will be the Balrog.
So should Jack, the forming of Mordor and the loss of light and the darkness and all that, shouldn't the elves be feeling that where Elrond and Korra?
No, because it only affects Mordor, doesn't it?
No, but I mean, would they like sort of feel it? Like, the only thing I can they wouldn't feel that
because then
light has been lost.
No, if they were what I mean is that the light will no longer shine on those lands.
But I know what you mean, but I mean, like, will they feel it from where they are?
No,
like, how Yoda feels when the Jedi are slaughtered.
No, it's not like that at all. No.
All right.
It would be like if they touch on it a little bit when they talk about the light of the trees going out. That caused quite a bit of sorrow amongst the elves, like quite a lot. And sorrow makes elves age.
Yeah.
So that would be the closest as an understanding to what that would be. And the Silt, well, yeah, Also, sorry. So the elves already in this version. It's not even a version of Rings, okay, of Tolkien's work. In this fan fiction of Amazons, the elves must already suspect there's a Balrog under the Misty Mountains because they've discussed Mithril being made from silver on a tree and a Balrog.
Yeah.
Which actually, now I think about it, just makes them more fucking selfish. They're now making the dwarfs or asking for the dwarfs to delve deeper, and they're not going to tell them the whole story.
Yeah, the elves are quite evil, aren't they? In this,
Elves
Yeah.
aren't. Elves are. Yeah, okay, I'm going on that one. Well, that'll be a rant for another podcast entirely.
yeah, we'll see what happens.
My prediction is, yeah, we'll spend a lot of time. I think we'll see more of the Weird Sisters, those three.
Oh yeah.
The reverse Norns. I
Yeah,
think
because they've got
they'll.
certain names, haven't they? They've got is it the Seeker
Dweller.
is one?
There's the Dweller, and then two others. The Dweller's actually a really cool character in David Gemmell, just so you know.
Okay.
She's
I've got something to add
practitioner.
here because
I was going to say, Rich, where do you want to see it go? Or
well, one thing I did want
to
to mention that occurred to me ages ago when we were talking about, like, we want to see where the orcs are developing. Maybe we have some sympathy for the orcs. It reminded me of an infamous piece of fan fiction, The Last Ring Bearer. If anybody's not familiar with that, the one that was written by the Russian author,
the Russian guy, yeah.
Yeah, Kirill Eskov. Apparently, the Russian title is, I'm going to try and pronounce this, is Posledny Kolsnotsnets. I probably murdered the pronunciation there, but it was written back in 1999, which tells the story of Lord of the Rings from the orcs' point of view. That really, that what they wanted to do was to build this sort of technological civilization, and Gandalf was having none of it, and that's why it was nothing to do with the ring. That was just a convenient excuse to exterminate this group of people, and it's their point. I mean, it's obviously it's not law based at all, but it's a really interesting premise.
I mean, very Russian.
Well, yeah, but it's an interesting idea. But I wonder whether somebody's perhaps read that and thought, "Oh, we should use that." You know, it's kind of like maybe the orcs aren't all that bad, and they just want to do their own thing, and you should just leave them alone, and that kind of thing. So I wonder whether that's, I mean, it's obviously not where they're going to go, because that would be far too interesting. Because much as I'm enjoying the series, kind of, I'm not a stand for it at all. But where it's going to go next, I think next episode will be a filler one, like you've said. We'll get probably a lot more Harfoots and stuff, and we'll see the post devastation stuff in the Southlands. And some emoting, probably people staring into the middle distance at the kind of devastation, which will be interesting to see what happens there. But I think it's going to be a Harfoots episode. Would be a lot of that, and probably some more intrigue back on Numenor. If Pharazon's there with his kind of evil eyebrows and his book of maps, then that could be fun. But if it's just I'm intrigued to see what's happening back there while the Queen's away. But machinations there, that could be fun, or at least interesting to watch. But we shall see. But yeah, I think it is going to be just a build up to the probably extended finale. So the episodes have been about an hour-ish long, I think.
Yeah, they've been pretty decent lengths.
So I think the final episode is probably going to be, I won't say an hour and a half, but maybe hour and 10, something like that, a little bit longer, because you can do that on streaming services. You don't have to be confined to a specific length, because of like advertising or sort of ad breaks and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm still intrigued to see where it's going, because as I say, it's still a 6-7-ish for me. There's moments where it could have pulled it back and hasn't quite. Interestingly, I think we talked about this off the podcast. There are people I know who are absolutely loving the series, everything about it. They're absolutely, really, really, really liking it. I know that's none of us here, and even I'm not in that category. But there are at least one or two people who I know socially who are really, really, really loving the series and see it perfectly compatible with the movies, which is complete heresy, I know, as far as you're concerned.
I think you need to rethink your friends, Rich.
But I'm not criticizing that. If people are enjoying it, then great, and that's fine.
Those people just aren't people of culture. That's what that is.
Well, potentially, but I think it's interesting to know that there are people out there. It's not universal hatred and disgust. It is interesting to note there are people out there who are genuinely enjoying it, not because as a way to kind of get back at the haters or because other people are hating it or whatever, but are genuinely getting pleasure from it. So, and we should acknowledge that. I think
Yeah,
Yeah.
all power to them. All power to them if they're enjoying it. I think, like it's so disappointing. There's no story there. There's 2 episodes left, and there's nothing building up. Like there's nothing. We're like, well, what's going on? Like,
Where,
what
where
is
is the
plot?
rings?
Where's the rings? Where's mention of the rings? Where's the Sauron intrigue apart from the previous episode? Like, what's going on? Like, why were those 3, by the way, are called the Dweller, the Nomad, and the Ascetic or Ascetic
Oh,
or something?
the ascetic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's like they just appeared for 10 seconds, looked for Thump
Something. Yeah.
Gandalf,
Potentially.
and
Yeah.
And
yeah,
looked evil.
Actually, of
yeah.
course, I know what will be in the finale. It'll be
They're
Sauron.
werewolves. They're
No, it's going to
werewolves.
be.
But no, those 3 women are going to be werewolves.
Well, I mean, I'm fine with werewolves. I love a bit of
I
that.
know you
But
are. No, they will be because Sauron was the Lord of Werewolves,
interesting.
and you saw 3 wolves attack the stranger or the hobbits.
Interesting.
There you go. Rich
But
is
And
10 out of 10 for you.
they said that those women are of a race that we have read about.
Interesting.
I
I think the big reveal in the final episode will be Sauron. That'll be the big thing. Oh, he's Sauron in full whatever, in because he has his physical form now or whatever, and that'll be the big reveal at the the finale of episode, the final episode.
Well, they
Episode
haven't built that
seven.
up.
Where
They
do you
haven't
think
built
this?
that up at all.
Where do you think this bollocks about Mithril's come from? Because Celebrimbor is the one who has said Mithril holds the light and all that rubbish, and then they need to bathe themselves in the light of it to stay immortal. So we know that Sauron deceived the elves, men, and dwarves. We don't know how he did it. They're pretty
Off
vague on
screen.
that. So he's off screen, been in Eregion the whole time with Celebrimbor, and I still stand by at the end. He will introduce Elrond to Sauron.
I see.
That's where the Mithril bollocks has all come from.
But then it's like, if I hope he's not revealed as Sauron, but
No,
because
he won't be. He'll be revealed with a different name.
because when Mordor come about, he's like, I thought it was cool, but it's completely random and it's like not built up to. I didn't know that was happening. Like I'm not as well versed in the lore as Jack and Trevor. It's like it was just sort of just happened, and you're like, okay. So if like now you're saying it won't happen, would be gladly, but if Sauron was revealed at the end, it would be like, wait, were we waiting for that or something? Like,
But by the time Elendil and Isildur are alive, the rings have been in existence for 1,500 years, and Eregion has already been destroyed, and Celebrimbor has already died. So, and Khazad-dûm has already closed its doors, and Galadriel is already living in Lothlorien. She's already got her ring, so the timeline is easy to.
yeah, they're all over the place
apart.
with it.
Yeah.
So to
I just want to
conclude,
see Sauron in his massive armor suit, kind of like batting people away with his big stick.
just go and watch the Fellowship.
I haven't done my prediction yet.
Okay.
I don't know. I think the entire prediction will be about the dwarves delving for Mithril, and there'll be some more really rubbish dialogue between Gil-galad somewhere along the line, and the hobbits will reach whatever destination it is that they're travelling to. Nori will reconcile with the stranger, whose English will have got better, his common tongue will have got better, and then probably right at the end you might see Galadriel sort of rising up out of the ashes. I think you'll probably see that.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it'll be so. It's going to be so good, visually stunning. And I think that'll be. You'll probably see a couple of the Numenorians finding each other. Maybe someone important will die. Hopefully, someone important will die. I've already seen a clip of Disa hammering or forging something out of iron.
Yeah, it was in the preview, wasn't it?
Yeah, and before people kick off about that, that's probably going to be more. Anybody listening to this that's like, fucking female dwarf dinner. Actually, female dwarves are so alike in voice and appearance to male dwarves that there's every possibility they probably are just as good at forging as the men. So before any misogynistic wankers decide to pop up about that one, give your head a little wobble. But yeah, that's my prediction. I don't think I'm going to be very impressed by next episode. I think this has been the best episode, and that's because of less dialogue.
Yeah, I think we've seen the best episode, and that's not saying much. So just to conclude, I'd like to ask the three of you a quick question. Give me a quick answer, sort of rundown, without saying it's a heap of shit. So say if someone come up to you and because I'm trying to figure this out, they actually asked you, so what's Rings of Power about? There's been 6 episodes. Is it worth me watching? Which is obviously a no for some of us, but if they ask genuinely, what's it about? I'd like to watch it. Can you guys, each of you guys, answer that for me? Because I can't answer that. I don't know what it's about because it feels like there's no story. So, Rich, what would you say if I asked you? So, Rings of Power, what's it about?
It's a fantasy set in Middle Earth. The Lord of the Rings. That's what I would say. And I would say, have you seen the Lord of the Rings movies? And if they said no, I would say, great. It's
You'll love
probably, I won't say you love it, but you might enjoy it. If you're a big fan of the Lord of the Rings films, it could go either way. You may absolutely detest it, or you may be thrilled. Oh, there's more Lord of the Rings content. Fantastic. It depends. So that's what I would say. I would say if you like fantasy stuff and fantasy novels, and you've not seen the Lord of the Rings movies, which if you like those things, it's unlikely, but it's possible. Then I would say, yeah, give it a watch, see what you think. I wouldn't say, oh, you must watch it. It's not a must watch, but I would certainly say, they might be like this friend of mine who absolutely adores it. So, I would say give it a watch, see what you think. Because having seen a lot of fantasy series over the years, some of which have been terrible or very low budget, I would say, but even though they were terrible and low budget, they had their fans. So if you're somebody who likes fantasy series just regardless, there will be a percentage of people who will enjoy it. I don't think it'll be as high as 70%, but I think it could be a 30-40% of people will enjoy it because it's a fantasy series. I think we talked about that in the previous podcast, Jack, that there will be an audience for that purely because it's fantasy, regardless of its lore and even its pacing and all of the other issues that we've talked about in this and previous podcasts. I would say, it's a fantasy series about, orcs and elves and humans, and and you might enjoy it. And that's as much as I would say. I wouldn't try to even get into the plotting or anything like that. And that's how I'd pitch it. Not hugely positive, not negative, but if you like fantasy, yeah, you might enjoy it. You might. And that's
fair enough.
I've got a couple of friends that started off watching the series that were like, this is really good. And then I saw them in the week and they were like, how the hell did they let this get so shit? And it was the same when we were at our Kindred moot last week. Everyone was just like, we weren't really talking about heathenry or religion. We were literally talking about how crap Rings of Power is. So like I said, there is people that are liking it, obviously, and really enjoying it. There are also people that started liking it and are now like.
So Jack, if I didn't have a clue and I said, oh, there's this show, Rich has told me it's sort of set in Middle Earth, a fantasy in Middle Earth. What's it about? 6 episodes in.
So, like, did you ever have a toy when you were a kid that you really loved? It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Played with it all the time, and then your mum accidentally put it in the wash, and then it was never quite the same after that. This is that toy. So, if you like Lord of the Rings as a film, just watch that instead. And if you like the books, probably don't bother watching any of the films either. And that's what this series is. This series is that toy that's been washed up and Amazon have bought it and then given it a new lick of paint and tried to tell you that it's just as good as the old toy that you had before.
That's great. Trevor, I feel like you've been a bit quieter in this one, maybe because of your opening. You haven't been too keen on it and you're just so disheartened. Trevor, what's Rings of Power about?
Oh, I mean, I know what it should be about. At the end of the day, I mean, I've said this on one of my videos on my channel. It's just that sort of, if you're enjoying this show, great. I'm happy for you. I'm personally not, and it'd be that sort of. I'm like this with most things. It's you can't criticize something if you don't watch it, or it's just that sort of. Well, if you're interested in watching it, watch it. See how you get on. It looks like Middle Earth. It's not Middle Earth for me, and I've got And I'm a bit speechless, really, about
Yeah, that's what I'm
finding a
saying.
way to encourage anyone to look at it in a positive way.
Have you seen the people that are aggressively defending this show because they like
Yeah,
it so much?
I have
yeah.
seen that. I think it was on the Guardian where there was all these criticisms. Some of them were valid, and there was one or two people were just going repeatedly commenting, "Well, just don't watch it then. Just don't watch it then."
Yeah, and it's
Which
like,
that's
but
not help. That's not constructive. It's like
yeah, but in those discussions, I'm like, why are people who really, really like this so bothered that other people don't like it? They've already won. They're enjoying the show. It doesn't matter that other people don't like it. Like, I don't understand why they need to get so uppity about it.
I mean, as
I
a fan
want
of
people
some
to
TV
enjoy it, but
shows
I
that
just don't.
as a fan of some TV shows and movies that I know get a ton of criticism, and every time I look up reviews, they're like 18%, 1 star. I was like, oh, but that's one of my favorite movies. I've got that on Blu-ray, really. But you just have to roll with it sometimes and just think, well, some things are not for everyone. And if
Yeah,
people are
some
enjoying
people.
this, if some people are enjoying this and really enjoy, and I mean genuinely, not in a way just to kind of, then I think great. But they have to understand that other people are going to be very cross about it because it's not what it could be. It's not what they've done. It's that it could have been so much better. I think
Yeah.
is really where.
I'd say as well, ultimately, I think sort of, I mean, we had a talk about this a few days ago, Hamish, didn't we? About sort of like maybe
Yeah.
having chats like this about House of the Dragon.
Mm.
And you go back to when Game of Thrones was on TV before it got to the last couple of seasons, or even with the last couple of seasons, it's just like after every episode, everyone was talking about it. Even now, like with House of the Dragon, you're getting it just sort of the spoilers you have to try and avoid before you watch the
Yeah.
episode.
Everyone's
And
enjoying it.
everyone's enjoying it. Everyone's talking about it, and they're talking about it in a positive way. And with Rings of Power, the people that are talking about it aren't talking about it really in a positive way. And
Mm.
the few, I'd say, like particularly on Don Marshall, one is one who's just like, how can you say what you're saying with a straight face? Because I've watched a lot of his stuff, and he's just like, he's really good. He's really good. I can't understand for the life of me why they can be so blinkered. It's almost like rather than diss the show, they're going, well, they've done something interesting with this. And it's like that's their way of saying, that's not law or whatever. And it's just not got the reaction. It's not created the talking points it should have done.
No, I think they went into this being like, oh, they're all gonna. You wait until they see what we've created. They're gonna absolutely love this. I know they're. I love the fact that they're all really wound up and complaining over the still they see. But once they've seen the series, they're gonna be like, this was amazing, and it didn't happen.
No,
I thought they
and-
felt like controversy will sell.
maybe,
well,
yeah.
there's apparently there is like some weird sort of deliberate Hollywood tactic that is
That's
like
what it feels like to me.
upset the core fan base and fuck them off as much as you can because
And I think, sorry, Jack. I think the other thing as well is that Amazon don't care because it's everyone's watching it.
yeah.
I think it's everyone's watching it. Just
Well,
get to a point to see how bad they're doing, what they're doing with it.
the Guardian is now writing less favourably about this, and other periodicals are and tabloids.
I don't think the Guardian said anything that positive. Have they
No,
really?
well, they did. Yeah, they did start off positive. They're like, "Oh, it's a masterpiece. It's stunning."
I
And
did
now
well.
they're like,
I think in the stuff I read, there was they certainly were pretty. I mean, they were mixed. They weren't sort of saying it was marvelous. At least in the bits that I read, they were pretty vicious about the stuff they didn't like. I wouldn't. They were certainly not saying it was a masterpiece that I recall. But
yeah, Forbes has gone in on it a little bit, but there is this is not a success. And if it is
No.
for people that like it, then it's a success for people that like it. Congratulations, well done. I'm happy for you. Everybody who isn't, I completely share your pain. And very much like when J.R.R. Tolkien was still alive and he didn't want Disney to buy any of his writing, I feel very much that he would never have wanted Amazon to touch this in a million years because of the way that they behave. and I fully understand now why Star Wars fans have been so upset. Wheel of Time fans are so upset. I fully understand. And just quickly, Hamish, I know we've got to wrap this up. Somebody has said that people complaining about this is because they've got their own head canon and that it's just head canon, it's not the actual canon. Fuck off. Whoever it is that's saying that, fuck off. And I mean it because it's the same people that say UPG to us whenever we talk about spiritual experiences. You can all fuck off when you're saying that because collectively, millions of people across the world are reading the books and coming to the exact same conclusion. So it's not headcanon, is it, you dweeby little shit? Sorry. Okay.
Well,
No, Jack,
I want to add something to that, Jack, because yes, I think what you're right is right, but it's not just the breaking of the law, because there's some bits where they've broken the law completely, and yet it's worked. You know, you think of Arondir, who, by rights, you should be hating because he's not in the books, he's doing stuff, but actually, he's one of the best things in it. So it could have worked. They could have broken the law, and you would have gone, they're broken the law, but god damn, this is great. You know,
it could have, but
you can break the law when
writing,
you need to.
Yeah,
you can break the law when you actually need to, but if you don't need to break the law and you have no reason to actually do it other than creating Galadriel, then you should have just kept it the way it was.
Yeah, you are right. The thing is with this show is 5-6 episodes in, and it's starting to show the cracks, and the cracks is the writing. The writing's terrible. I've never seen anything like it. It's how much money's been pumped into this show, and it looks like it does, but looks always fade, and the writing is absolutely awful, and that's why the reviews are coming in now, and more people are actually like turning their heads and being like, actually, this is shit.
There is a bit actually in the beginning when Isildur is talking to Galadriel, and I was like, this is more like it. Somebody's been paying attention, but then you go to Galadriel interacting with Adar, and you're like, oh no, back we go, because he is almost like looks at her like, well, look who Melkor got his claws into. Do you know what I mean? He's like, I thought I had my fucking problems, but you have got a ton of issues. And Elrond warns about that. I think in the Fellowship, or it might be the Hobbit, I can't remember, where he says, like, don't spend too long studying dark practice. This isn't me phrasing or anything. It's like, don't study the darkness for too long, because eventually you will become the darkness, or something like that. It's like Saruman, basically, when Saruman was looking into the Palantir, and then eventually became persuaded by Sauron. And it's sort of like, well, they're kind of doing that with Galadriel because of one of her brothers, not even all of her brothers, just one of them.
Right. On that note, are we good to call it a day and wait for the next episode?
I'm sure we're all excited for that. Yeah,
I'm not. I'm actually not. Like, this was a lovely distraction, this episode. Like, I'm almost tempted to give it a 5 just because it's still a 4.
I enjoy these chats. I enjoy these chats more than the episode.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the next episode because it means we're a few days closer to the next episode of House of the Dragon.
Exactly. It's a milestone.
Can't see that. I still can't.
No spoilers, guys. No spoilers.
Well, anyway, on that note, thank you for anyone who's listening. This is one of my highlights of the week. I really enjoy these chats. So yeah, thank you for anyone who's listening, and hope you tune in next week and hear about episode 7. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.